Howdy, everybody. What's going on? Conference championship week is upon us. How are we doing today? How did you like the divisional playoffs? It wasn't as great as the wild. It wasn't as super wild card weekend, was it? I don't know if anything was going to live up to super wild card weekend, was it? I mean, it was just weren't going to get that. But there were some disappointments. I was disappointed in some things and surprised by some things, and we'll discuss some of those things that were surprising and disappointing, and some of the things that were great, and some of the things that we'll be dealing with still this week. Hello, Andrea. How are you? Thanks for coming. Thanks, everyone, for coming. I am Bob Harris, senior editor, footballdiehards.com. You can find our work there. We are rolling through the preseason. We have a good amount of content, especially DFS focused, as you could imagine. Jamie Calandro, Justin Lanero, myself, all delivering the goods as you would expect. We'll have the DFS. Are we going Saturday email this week, or we'll figure that out? We will have. I know I didn't like either, Andrea. It was not as great as I expected, and not all the outcomes were what I expected, said the person invested in the Buffalo Bills. So I guess should we go from? Should I go ahead and say it? Offensive lines don't matter anymore, according to the Bengals, or maybe just for the Bengals. Like there was a tweet from Sal Marona from the I want to say the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle during the Buffalo game, and just mentioned that Cincinnati was down 3 starting offensive linemen and still dominating Buffalo at the line of scrimmage. It was shocking. I didn't expect it. I thought the Bills did not show up, and it was fair to wonder. I think at some point if the emotion and adrenaline would subside. I mean, Damar Hamlin was there and in the stands and up in his booth, up in the one of the suites and cheering them on. But at some point, maybe that emotion kind of evaporated. The Bengals, continued to play the disrespect card. I don't know. I don't know if, the disrespect card, how much that does for people. I mean, everyone's kind of a little disrespected. What do the Bengals think? Like, the NFL had the possibility of having to play at a neutral site, so they weren't going to sell tickets. It's like, if you wanted to go to a playoff game at any point during the season, not knowing if the team's going to make it to the playoff to that spot, you can still buy the tickets. That's how it works, right? I mean, it would be irresponsible of them not to sell tickets. I like Jamar Chase, Andrea, and I haven't looked at the pricing yet, and I'll get into that. Probably we can talk about that more on the Saturday live stream this week. But I mean, I do like Higgins just fine. I think this matchup is one against the Chiefs I want to exploit a little bit. Maybe one of the more favorable matchups in terms of the passing game for the weekend. So I'm interested in exploiting that, and that's going to mean a lot of Chase for me. And I'm sure I will be paying up for it. And, he didn't hit the over on his catches this week. It was the first time in a while yet. I think the over was 7.5. I was taking it. I was taking that. Anyway, so in case you haven't heard, there will be 2 games on Sunday. The Bengals and the Chiefs will be one of those games, and we'll look forward to that. And the other one, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers-Eagles will be taking it at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The Bengals and Chiefs in Kansas City, the other one in Philadelphia, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So should be a good late afternoon and evening of football action, hoping things work out. Sounds like we'll have all the pieces in place, and I guess that's kind of the big storyline at the moment, right, is who is going to be playing and not playing, and it sounds like everyone's going to be playing, except the Bengals offensive linemen, which, as I mentioned, don't actually matter. It doesn't matter who's playing offensive line for the Bengals. They're going to roll right over you, according to the Bills. We'll talk a little bit about the teams that got knocked out. I'll talk a little bit about the games coming up. I'll talk a little bit today about a new tool we're releasing on the site. We'll put the link in the chat here at some point. But our winning players tool, kind of what percentage of winning championship teams various players were on. It's kind of interesting to see, which players carried teams to titles. I'm always interested in that. So we'll discuss that a little bit. First, we'll do the injuries and get that out of the way because I don't think there's anything that's going to be a big issue. Again, the Bengals, the offensive lineman not practicing, Jonah Williams, Kappa not practicing. Ted Karras is practicing, though, fully. So he's the center, work fully. So no Alex Kappa, no Jonah Williams. Lyle Collins already out. Nobody cares. Kappa played all 75 snaps Sunday. but was clearly in some pain, injured in the second quarter, and wore breaks the rest of the game. He'll be playing as well. So, Joe Burrow will be lighting it up, not just a cigar after the game. We'll see. Of course, in that same game, Patrick Mahomes has the high ankle sprain. You saw it happen. Got rolled up on. I saw someone complaining in my Twitter timeline that it was like people were hunting for his knee. It looked like they weren't. I don't know. It's like he just got rolled up on. Tony Pollard also can talk a little bit about that as well. He ended up with a fractured fibula. Thank God that didn't happen with Patrick Mahomes. Good afternoon, Dame. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming. We're just shooting the breeze today. Got a nice leisurely afternoon. Again, if you're not familiar with me, I am Bob Harris, senior editor, Football Diehards. You can catch me on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio as well. Still 4 days a week at this point of the year. We're going to do that well into February, so steel yourself. Monday, Thursday, Friday, 10 p.m.s. That'll be consistently going on. Saturdays, for now, will be on at 3 to 5 p.m. Dempsey will be back this week on Saturday. No Jaguars game to cover. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. Get your thoughts on what you think about the Jaguars going forward. Should be interesting. Same with the Giants. Same with the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, the Cowboys fans. So angry. So disappointed. I think, actually, they set themselves up for nobody, badmouths their own team like the Cowboys fans, right? I mean, they just know they're not going to win. And I think they say it to appease the fantasy gods, or the NFL gods. Scampers, hello. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. But I think that's a fair assessment of the Cowboys fans, and nobody a more downcast lot. I guess they're used to it, right? No offense, Cowboys fans. You know it. I know it. The American people know it. You're downcast. You badmouth your own team. You don't think you're going to win, and I think you send a lot of negative energy out. No, I don't really care. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about all the teams that got knocked out. Who did I forget? The Giants. The Bills of Buffalo. Oh my gosh. I do love what the Jags are building. I think they're going to be pretty good, Mr. Scampers. I agree with this totally, and we'll talk about some of the pieces they're going to move on from. Let me get through the injuries real quick. San Francisco 49ers, Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Deebo Samuel not practicing. They're going to play. And it'll be a little bit of a question with both Mitchell and McCaffrey. We saw the usage was high for Elijah Mitchell, high against the Dallas Cowboys. Will it be high against the Philadelphia Eagles? We will see. I think they'll both be available. Deebo Samuel also will be available. For the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts off the injury report. And off my personal injury report, Stephen Pavia. Can you imagine a last pick draft choice leading his team to Super Bowl? It's possible. So I picked San Francisco going into this. I think Philadelphia's playing a lot better. Or not a lot better. Philadelphia's on a little bit of a roll right now. I thought Dallas's defense fared pretty well against this offense, or at least against Brock Purdy. But also A.J. Brown, before I forget, practicing not on the injury report. Turns out his feelings were hurt worse than his hip. So let's dig in. Scampers mentioned this, the Jaguars. Let's start there. Trevor Lawrence, I think, in a great spot, right, going forward. Where are we drafting him next year? Finished as a quarterback 8, I think, or right in that range this year. Are we going to draft him that high, or are we going to hope he slips down a little bit? You know me. I'm hoping he slips down. I don't want to pay full price for anything or anyone. Certainly not for Trevor Lawrence, but boy, talk about a guy in a good spot, right, with a great coaching staff. They've really turned him around, got his game on track, super productive weekly, right? Not just total scoring, but that week-to-week scoring was really good. Let me bring up some numbers just so I'm not talking out the backside here. I just was 17.7 average points per game, and I'm using a generic scoring system that we use at Sirius for our leagues there, and 6 points per touchdowns, etc. But again, finished as quarterback 8 in that league, 17.7 points a game. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3 single-digit games. One of them week 17, unfortunately. And some nice, higher-end games, 21, 25, 34, 28, 18. Down the stretch when it mattered most. I thought he really delivered it down the stretch and came on strong. I'm a little less certain about Travis Etienne. Don't feel entirely comfortable. He finished as kind of a mid-range running back 2, his average points per game, 11.4. What's the problem for him? He did not catch the football. What do we think? Do we think that, so when he got drafted, rumors of Lamar to Atlanta and Trey Lance traded to Baltimore. We will discuss some of those. I mean, I don't think Lamar's going anywhere. I talked about this last week. I'll talk about it again here just quickly because I don't think he's going anywhere. There's a lot we don't know. And I think a lot of things, just like we drafted Gabe Davis, I'm going to get on my Gabe Davis high horse, based on a great season closing game last year against the Kansas City Chiefs, right? 4 touchdown game. He should not have gone as high as he was going. Why was that? Because we remember the last thing that we see. What was the last thing we saw of Lamar? Well, nothing. And that was the problem, right? We didn't see anything. We don't know how bad the knee was. We thought he should have been back. He wasn't back. We wondered why he wasn't at that last game. Maybe it was a wise, prudent choice. We're not sure about what his contract offer was and what he's after. A lot of uncertainty there. My expectation is Baltimore will tag him if they don't get a long-term deal done. He will make a lot of money either way. Trey Lance traded to Baltimore is interesting. Did you see when Rand Carthorne got hired by the Tennessee Titans, the tweet Trey Lance put out? Seemed like he was hoping to end up with the Tennessee Titans. Be interesting. JB Frost has an interesting question, and I will answer it now because I think it's fantastic. We'll get to your questions. We got plenty of time to go through everything, so no rush, no set plan here. We'll kind of kick it around, but I'll get back to the Jaguars. How high would I draft Travis Kelce next year? There are going to be drafts where I draft him first overall. Is that controversial to you? Would you consider doing that? I mean, if you're looking for leverage over the field, right? If that's the key to fantasy success, winning the positional battles, right? Then nobody gives you the leverage over the field that he does, right? That's just, nobody does. Looking over the course of the season, 15.6 points per game. Who was next? TJ Hawkinson. We'll just use this as a relative scoring system. It's a PPR, generic PPR league. Next in line was TJ Hawkinson. Average points per game, 10.6. That makes Travis Kelce a player and a half. That's the same reason you draft Christian McCaffrey. These are both positions of scarcity, right? And I've talked about this before. I know Scott Kobe and I, who you often see in the chats here, we're having a little bit of a discussion about quarterbacks. Yes, we'll get to talk about Ridley here momentarily. We were talking about, I've been talking about it the last couple of weeks, and I think it's true. I think, I'm going to start looking at my fantasy drafts a little bit more like the NFL looks like their drafts and their acquisitions. I'm going to invest more capital in the things the NFL are putting more capital into. It's wide receivers and quarterbacks. That's where they're making their big investments. I'm still going to have running backs. It's still a position, of scarcity in the third-year playoffs next year. Yes, we will talk about. Yes, I do remember Calvin Ridley. Yes. Appreciate the reminder. So I do think, if you're looking at Travis Kelce, I'm not going to do it in all my drafts, but I think it's some best balls. I'm going to draft Travis Kelce number 1 and see how it works. See, I don't think he should make it out of the first round. Again, he's a player and a half at his position. Who else are we drafting, in the first round that's a player and a half? Maybe Christian McCaffrey. Who else is a player and a half? Justin Jefferson can be, but hasn't been on the average scoring, I want to say. I just think the workload, the quarterback is secure, the situation there is secure, the offense is knowable. We know what's going on. The only question is, does Travis Kelce hit a wall, right? I think I'm betting against that. I'm willing to bet against that. Maybe not exclusively, not in every league. I mean, there are going to be leagues where I draft. Cooper Kupp's still going to be on my list as number 1 overall. Justin Jefferson might be, but it seems like teams have figured out, some teams are willing to sell out to shut him down. Jamar Chase came on down the stretch since returning from his injury. He's been fantastic, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Honestly, I think you could make a pretty good case for Travis Kelce as the first overall pick, and I will do that. What do you guys think? How crazy is that? Was anyone else out there think that I'm reaching a bit too far? I don't think you would have to. I don't think most people would draft him that high. You're not going to have that pick every time. So how high would you draft Travis Kelce? Throw that into the comments. By the way, hit the subscribe button if you're here and you're not subscribed, and the notification bell. Hit the like button. I'm going to hit the dislike button just because I like to dislike myself. Makes me feel good to do that. I just wanted to know that we're all here. So anyway, getting back to Calvin Ridley. Yes, I remember Calvin Ridley because he's been suspended for the year. Last we saw him, he only played 5 games, right, in 2021 before he called it a season and then was suspended. But the last time we saw him do a full season, 1,374 yards, caught 90 of 138 targets. It was pretty good. Played 15 games, missed a game. So there was that. But what some of the numbers? He finished tied for 5th in receiving yards with Devontae Adams. Scored 9 times in just 15 games. Caught 62.9% of those targets. That was good. That was really good. The targets led the league. He had 800-yard games in 2020. They had 28 the most in a single season. So pretty damn good, right? And you think this is an offense on the rise? Christian Kirk is going to be a factor, and maybe this makes both of them more effective, right? And I think this hurts Zay Jones. I think Marvin Jones maybe moves on. Evan Ingram, where are we going to draft him? I think a guy that delivered what he did down the stretch. 7 pick in first round for Travis Kelce, maybe 5 for Kelce. I think that's reasonable, right? So looking at the players that'll go ahead of him, let's say Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp, if people are still interested in him, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, I think are all on the table. And then after that, I think everything's on the board. I mean, what other running backs? I guess, Derrick Henry's going to be up there. Saquon Barkley will be up in there as well. So yeah, I think those are reasonable enough. And I think, some, like when I say I'm going to draft him for number 1 overall, you guys know I'm going to be in a lot of drafts. So that's the thing. I will experiment a lot in best ball and see how the builds work before I get into my regular drafts late in the summer. And who knows, maybe I will take some Travis Kelce. We'll see how it plays out. What are you going to get coming back around? I think, as I mentioned, I'm going to be drafting, trying to invest a little more like the NFL as opposed to like Bob Harris. Bob Harris still thinks it's 1986 and that running feature backs are are a valuable commodity. They are, right? Chasing volume at running back is still a reasonable thing. But I think you can get it. Like, where were we getting Josh Jacobs this year, right? If you identify the right players, I think you're going to be okay, right? So that's going to be part of the fun, and we'll be doing that all off season long, trying to identify some of the values at running back we can get a little bit later and can be your hero, right? Because I think that's what, for me, this is heading for a hero RB kind of thing. I don't know if I'll ever be a 0 RB guy, but I'm going to be a hero RB guy. I'm going to invest a little more heavily in the wide receivers. Quarterback's going to go a little earlier. We'll see when they start coming off the board. So that brings us to Evan Ingram, who finished, I want to say, down the stretch over the last, if you narrow it down to the last, month or month and a half of the season, he was tight end 2, 3, 4, tight end 4. Finished the season well inside the top 10. Sounds like he'll come back. I think if he goes back to Jacksonville, I'm going to be interested. Doug Peterson likes to use him. I like the way he uses them. So Evan Ingram's fast, 4.42 in the 40. There's something to be said for that. And I think the problems with Evan Ingram, as any New York Giants fan will tell you, was he dropped football, right? He dropped passes. And also, kind of like an easily overlooked fact was he had a lot of passes that were targeted a lot of passes on which he was targeted were intercepted, an unusual amount, at least his last season in the Giants. That wasn't the case this year. It went pretty well, hoping he returns there for a reasonable contract. And by reasonable, I mean something in the range of the franchise tag, right? He kind of played on the deal he got was close to that. So we'll see. So, yes, so the pieces there I'm interested in. Trevor Lawrence for sure. Like, Trevor Lawrence is a player that I might, and you guys can chime in on this as well, because I think it's a fair point. We all like to play the Superflex, or many. I like to play the Superflex. Maybe I should say that. Me. Playing Superflex, if I went like quarterback and waited maybe until the tail end or the mid range of that, outside the top 5 guys, and I grab a quarterback, I might be willing to come back and go back to back and get Trevor Lawrence as my second quarterback, like a super high end second quarterback in Superflex leagues. That sounds like a winning proposition for me. So I may be doing a lot of that. New York Giants, we'll see if Daniel Jones is back. I think he will be. I think he'll continue to get better. I think Brian Daboll has something to do with this, people. And I think Brian Daboll knows he has something to do with this. So thinking they can get him back at a reasonable cost, maybe like a 3-year deal that gives him a chance for one of the big contracts, right? 3 years, $100 million, somewhere in that range. seems like it's a possibility. So Joe Shane, the GM, talked a little bit about it. Daniel Jones talked about it. They both, say, hey, yes, that's the desired outcome, but both acknowledge that business is going to be a factor because it always is a factor. So we'll see. I thought it was interesting. Brian Dable kind of, downplayed. Yeah, he was okay after a disappointing loss, right? It was not a great game against Philadelphia. So I get it, but for the most part, Daniel Jones showed market improvement, and I think Brian Dable's the reason why. It's pretty clear to me. And just like Josh Allen showed a great deal of improvement, right? So I think maybe Brian Dable sees a little of that, possibility. Maybe not the same upside, maybe not the same consistent high-end production, but I think he sees some of that in Daniel Jones, who's a very good runner. We've all seen it many, many, many times. So like that. Saquon Barkley. There's reporting that he was offered $12 million and didn't take that. He didn't take that. I don't know if any, teams aren't paying running backs like that. So my guess is he'll be back as a Giant. I know they'd like to keep him. I think he'd like to be back there. If he's back there, he's right around that top 5, running backs. He'll be right around, I know I want to say I saw Matthew Berry's early rankings and he had him number 2. I get it. I'm not going that high, but he'll be right up there. Lawrence will run more next year. I think willpower, I agree with that. I think he will run a little more. I just think as this offense develops and he gets more comfortable, he'll, his athleticism will go a little bit more. The wide receiver group in the New York Giants should get a little better. Look, you guys know I loved Isaiah Hodgins down the stretch. I thought he was a great play. And look, there was something behind that, right? The coaching, Brian Dable and Joe Shane knew him from Buffalo, and they knew what they had in him. And there had been some moments in training camp, if you think back. I know he was injured at one point, hurt his ankle, and that kind of put the kibosh on him. But he was kind of gaining some buzz, drawing some attention in training camp. So, as a rookie. So, maybe he sticks around, but Darius Slayton. But, Wan'Dale Robinson should get better at some point. He's got to recover from his ACL. Will Sterling Shepard be back? We don't know. Maybe this is a team that makes some moves at wide receiver. Maybe Kenny Golladay turns back into Kenny Golladay. All right, probably not. He had that one catch. Was that one catch really good? It was fantastic. I think the Kenny Golladay experiment's over. They still owe him a lot of money, though, so I don't know if he's going away. But maybe they landed DeAndre Hopkins or somebody. Who knows? Add a little speed to that position. So we'll see. Daniel Bellinger, who I kind of like going into this season, but I only liked him in the Independence Day Bowl, Independence Day draft in Sirius because you have to start 4 tight ends in his tight end premium, and he was at the tail end, and he had moments, but nothing great. Dallas Cowboys, Tony Pollard suffers the fractured fibula. I think he'll be a free agent as well. I'm guessing this maybe makes it hard for other teams to be as interested in him as Dallas. We know, though, Dallas is going to limit him. Skip Pete, my former high school rival, high school player, I played against Skip Pete. That shows how old I am. And Rodney. Skip Pete said that they feel like he starts losing effectiveness past 30 snaps. Well, other teams see it that way. Well, the Cowboys continue to see it that way. And what about Zeke, who will probably, it seems like he's willing to renegotiate his contract. I hope the last thing we remember of Zeke in a Dallas Cowboys uniform is not that inglorious moment where he was lined up at center and trucked. I saw what they were doing. I know what they were trying to do there, and it totally flopped, right? It was not ideally executed, but I'm not going to rag on him too hard about that. But anyway, so we'll see if Zeke makes it back, right? And maybe he does, and maybe he has a similar role. If you look at Zeke, he had the 12 touchdowns, right? Zeke probably delivered what you expected if you drafted him as your running back too, right? If you were hammering him when you got him in the 4th, 5th round, you're probably satisfied with what you got out of him. I don't think it's ideal. I don't think the role is ideal, but I thought his production this year was ideal, and maybe he can get another year out of that if he sticks around Dallas. If he doesn't, all bets are off. Wide receiver CeeDee Lamb finished, I think, right around where we paid for him to finish, right? Dak Prescott, a little bit of a disappointment with the turnovers. They need to do something else at wide receiver, though. Gallup, Noah Brown, T.Y. Hilton, Jalen Tolbert. Jalen, where'd you go, man? What happened? Where'd you go? Had some high hopes. So, but, a lot of times we're way early on these guys. We heard him, gain some run, and I'm talking about Jalen Tolbert. I liked him because he came on the Football Diehards radio program. It seemed like a very nice young man. I like guys that come on the show. Jonathan Taylor will forever. Raheem Mostert. A lot of guys have come on the Football Diehards radio program, and you love them. So a little bit in the tank for him, but obviously didn't show up. It fell off the radar to the end of the year. Maybe he can bounce back. Maybe he'll be the next Isaiah Hodgins. Imagine that. Dalton Schultz, they had an unrestricted free agent, played on the tag this year. We'll see if he comes back. They have 2 young tight ends on that roster as well, and Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot. So maybe they don't want to overpay. We'll see. They need more speed at wide receiver, though. DJ Chark, an unrestricted free agent. Go there. Would work out for everybody, I think. Because Jameson Williams is going to cut into your playing time, DJ. That's all I'm saying. All right. So the Dallas Cowboys, that's it. So the Buffalo Bills. What are we going to do with the Buffalo Bills? Devin Singletary, an unrestricted free agent. I feel like the Buffalo Bills are going to remain the same. I'm assuming Stephon Diggs will not talk his way out of Buffalo. And, Steven, I see that question. I will get to it momentarily. And same with you, JB. We'll get to these questions here. Just kind of run through these scenarios with the teams that were knocked out before we move on. And I want to get to the winning players tool. We're going to put a link in the site. You can go check it out and see what you think. Free of charge. No login required to check this out. We'll put it in there momentarily. But the Buffalo Bills, I mean, Josh Allen, he's not falling out of the top 3. You know, you could say, I mean, maybe Jalen Hurts. I don't know. I may go Jalen Hurts ahead of him. I know that Scott Kobe was talking about that with me. I'll share our private conversation. I'm sure he would not mind. I will probably be there with him, although I think if, you know, maybe some of this is price dependent. If Josh Allen slides a little bit because people have a bad taste in their mouth, remember, what do we see? What do we remember? The last thing we saw, right? If you remember, and there was a lot of turnovers this year, right? And maybe Brian Dable was a factor. We'll see if Ken Dorsey sticks around or he gets another job as a head coach. But look, I think Josh Allen's going to continue to find that rushing equity is not going anywhere. He's going to continue to be a high-end piece. Stephon Diggs, top 5, top 6. Top 7, however you like it. I think he's not going to make it out of that range. Not going to make it out of round 2, right? After that, Dawson Knox came on. I liked it. A little touchdown dependent, but he scored the touchdowns, and Josh Allen, you know, had his target. I think if Devin Singletary moves on, a lot of people are going to be all in on James Cook. What do you guys think of James Cook? I think he might be just a guy, but we'll see. We'll see what they do at the running back position. Will they invest in the draft? Will they keep Devin Singletary? I think the Bills, for me, remain the same, and for now. As things stand now, I will be drafting Josh Allen. I will be fine with Stephon Diggs. I think you're taking your chances with everyone else. Maybe less so with Dawson Knox. He might be developing. Remember, Dawson Knox had a pretty limited college career, right? Didn't have a lot of experience, didn't have a lot of production. Had to be a little bit of a work in progress. So maybe that progress is ongoing. So those are the you know, like, I think, again, if you get past Gabe Davis, and I can, you know, share my Gabe Davis love or lack of love. That's right. Andrea put it right. Bills need another wide receiver. They definitely do. And like, I don't think Gabe Davis is bad. I just think, you know, they need maybe another field stretcher. I don't know. They seem to have enough. I think Jamison Crowder will move on. He got hurt and hasn't been a big factor. But yeah, I think they need some more at wide. Maybe Khalil Shakir is going to be that guy. Maybe he emerges. Maybe one of the players they have emerges. Gabe Davis is fine, right? He just doesn't show up every week in the regular season. And like, again, you know, we remember the last thing we saw. It wasn't a great showing for anyone in that last game against Cincinnati. The week before, the Miami game was the last thing we saw. Maybe we'd all be overdrafting. McKenzie and Shakir could be starters, says Stephen Pavey. I don't disagree with that, but I think that's the point. How keen are you on counting on these players for consistent weekly production? I mean, I need to see a little more. I think you can count on that from Josh Allen. You can count on that from Stephon Diggs. And after that, you're going to get it sometime. You're going to get production at times, but I don't know if it's going to be the kind of consistent production we need from our fantasy starters. So hopefully that changes a little bit and they can get something going there. But as things stand now, I don't see that changing that much. Looking at this weekend's games, we have our rankings up at footballdiehards.com, our postseason long rankings, as our predictions have held up okay. I think we have like 3 of our 4 in the final outing here. So went reasonably well. Still have a lot of players in. Hope you're all doing well in your one and done contest. Hope your DFS has gone well. Again, DFS, we will have a DFS lineup show. Emil, if you could let me know if it's going to be Saturday. Tentatively, probably for Saturday, since it's all Sunday games. We'll see Maybe to be determined. No DFS. No DFS this week. Damn it. Well, do this then. Listen to the Football Diehards. Apologies for that. Listen to the Football Diehards radio program. We'll have Eric Romoff on Friday night. We'll have Jamie on Saturday. Get their picks. We'll have Jamie's articles as well. So this weekend, you'll have my DFS 3.5 tournament article, which has been a little spotty. But I've hit some this postseason. So some of the questions here I want to catch up on before we get into the winning player tool. Is Jonathan Taylor still a top 10 pick next year? Yes, he will be. But that team needs to be better. The offensive line was sadly disappointing. Jonathan Taylor was not great, right? He had a huge first game, but I just think again, I'm a volume chaser, and you probably should be too. Just look at some of the numbers here. Hold on. I'll get there. So he finished, 25 points that first week, and then 7, 11, 3, 13, 6, 24, 15, 8. So he had a nice little run. So he was beat up a fair amount. Ended up his average scoring was 12.4 points a game, which if you're scoring, trying to put that where that 12.4, he was running back 2, a high end, a low end running back 2. I think he can be more than that. So I don't think he'll make it out of the top 10. I think people will still draft him as such. I wouldn't blame you for not, though. And if we're trying to project going forward, as we try to do, there may be some players that rise up the radar, right? Who will you be drafting? So throw in some names of the guys that you think are going to rise up. If we look at this year's finish, and that's not always definitive, I'll go with average points per game. Austin Eckler led the way. Christian McCaffrey was next at 18. 19 for Eckler, McCaffrey 18. Derrick Henry, are we still confident in him? Josh Jacobs is going to go high. Saquon Barkley is going to go high. Nick Chubb. Had questions about Breece Hall. We'll talk about that. His recovery. Tony Pollard was, I want to say, running back 8 or 9. Joe Mixon right up there, 15 points per game. Start looking at it. And Jamal Williams was at 13 points game. So let's go Breece Hall, Jamal Williams. I think Breece Hall, I'm hoping he's back fairly early, right? I think Breece Hall looked like the real deal to me. JB Frost is, I think that is one that a lot of people are going on, but it depends on, the recovery. It is good. Let's just double check the date on that. Season ending tournament. That was October, the last week of October. So it'll be close. Like, he seems likely to be opening training camp on the PUP list. But I think, look, he had great speed, great power, looked fantastic. Just wanted to look at the timetable here, look at the calendar. Yeah, I think it'll be close for him. I'll be drafting him, and I hope I get a discount. I hope people dial back a little bit, and this is the thing that happens often with running backs like this, and the same with Javonte Williams. I mean, it was hard to figure out what direction that was going with them keeping Melvin Gordon early on. They moved on, so I think Javonte Williams will be a guy that I'll be looking to get at a discount if I can. And I'd like to get Jonathan Taylor at a discount. I do think, JB, that he will probably go in the top 10. I want to say, looking at the early rankings, let me go take a quick look. At the current Fantasy Pros ranking, he's running back 3. I think that's a little aggressive. But I get it. I mean, people chase volume. By the way, it's Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb. Then they get the wide receivers. I'm going to be going wide receiver earlier in this. It goes 7, Justin Jefferson, Kenneth Walker, maybe a little aggressive there for me. Travis Kelce at 9, Josh Jacobs at 10, Cooper Kupp at 11. I'll take that all day long. Jamar Chase at 12. I will take that all day long. Devontae Adams at 13. We'll see what the quarterback situation is. Stephon Diggs, 14. Najee Harris, I think that's one that's interesting to me. Joe Mixon, Travis Etienne, a little rich for my blood. Dalvin Cook, maybe a nice discount there. Tyreek Hill, nice discount there. CeeDee Lamb, nice, fairly priced there. A.J. Brown seems about right. Devontae Smith, that's one I'll be looking for. Devontae Smith has been playing lights out. I think he'll be coming at a bit of a discount. I don't know if Javonte is going to be money. I would agree with that. So I think JT's value depends, Steven says, on who will be the Colts quarterback. I think they'll make a big effort to have a quarterback, maybe a better quarterback than they've had, or maybe not. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to work. I think the offensive line is a big issue because they're there. And apparently, unless you're the Cincinnati Bengals, offensive lines matter. Right? Cup and Chase on the turn would be, I would do that all day long. I would smash that. That's what the kids say. Smash that. Smash spot. Yeah, I'd take that for sure. That'd be a nice play. So some interesting things that'll be going on. By the way, we're going to be having our first mock draft Monday on Football Diehards radio program next Monday. Not this Monday. Well, no, it is this Monday. Is Monday the 30th? Good Lord. I've already lost track of times. Yes! January 30th. Set a reminder. It'll be Jamie Calandro and Eric Romoff will be joining Mike Dempsey and ourselves. If you've listened over the course of the last offseason, we did that so much. Just have four of us. We each draft three teams. Just kind of go as high speed and just kind of try some different builds and do some different things. So we'll be doing that. We'll be doing some of those here. Maybe you can join in. We'll set some things up on Sleeper so you can get on the fun. So that's always a good time, and I'll sit here and roast you or congratulate you. Where do you draft Swift? I don't think that's going to be one that I'm looking at closely because I think that will be a huge discount. Right now in the early consensus rankings at Fantasy Pros, he's going off at player 31. So you're looking at a late third round pick. That might be a little rich for my blood. I don't think that, it just seems like the Lions don't trust him. We'll see, we'll see what they do, but I definitely not a top 12, 15 right now. He is capable of performing as a top 12 or 15 running back. That's the thing. That's what I'm after. I want to draft somebody who is capable of that production. But honestly, he doesn't look like a guy that the team trusts. Right? You all know I'm injury agnostic. I don't believe in injury-prone players. He gets injured a lot, right? So I will acknowledge that. I know Deuce Staley was in his ear a lot over the course of this offseason, talking about the difference between pain and injury, like an old school guy would say. But still, even when DeAndre Swift was healthy this year, it became a three-man committee at some point where Justin Jackson had worked his way into the mix, right, along with Jamal Williams, who had a phenomenal touchdown season, but he seemed to slow down a little bit at the end. So I'll be looking for that discount. That'll be interesting to see. We're going to throw up in the chat a thing that Emel's been working on. It's our winning players tool, and it just kind of gives you the percentage of where they were owned and people who finished in the top three, and kind of give you a look here. Patrick Mahomes, 47.4% of those lineups. 10% in the top 1%. 27% the top 2% owned, the top 4% owned, 56%. Patrick Mahomes was a winning player. Stephon Diggs up there very high. Austin Eckler, Travis Kelce at number 4. Tony Pollard, a guy who came at great value, number 5. Justin Jefferson at number 6. Jalen Hurts at number 7. Here's one. Justin Fields at number 8 was a winning player. And then we start getting into the things that surprise you a little bit. Put that in. Ramondre Stevenson or DeAndre Swift. I'd probably be going Stevenson at that point, JB Frost, a little ahead of him. And we'll see what happens with Damian Harris being a free agent. If he's gone, that would help the cause a little bit, I think. Let's see where Stevenson. The consensus has Swift going ahead of Stevenson. I don't know if I'd be that comfortable. I might be looking for the discount there. What do you guys think? Amon-Ra St. Brown cannot go too high. I'm going to channel my inner Dwayne McFarland here. Pound the table. Look, man, it's hard to argue with what Amon-Ra St. Brown did, right? I mean, I can remember talking to beat writers going into last season, Scampers, and the discussion was, and I mean, and they're, I feel like they weren't wrong, but they basically said, he's not going to get that 8 to 10 targets a game. I don't think they were wrong going into the season, but they were proved wrong. Right, and I think it's just Amon-Ra St. Brown was maybe a little better. So Jameson Williams will be back. That's going to be a factor. We'll see if they get another tight end. But once T.J. Hawkinson was gone, there was no stopping Amon-Ra St. Brown. He finished as wide receiver 8. The average generic kind of scoring content and average points per game. He was great. 13.8 points per game. Pretty damn good. Let's see, where did that rank him? That put him at number 10. Total points, he was a little higher. So, yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown I'll be looking for. I think he's to me, he looks like a consistent producer, right? And you can sort, by the way, on that page by the various categories. So feel free. Diggs won a lot. Jacoby Myers is ranked very high. Jacoby Myers, it's funny because I remember at points this season where, I want to say there was a point this season where he was like the numbers were shocking to me where he ranked in the games he played. Right, he was there. I think there was one point where he was like wide receiver 5. That ended, but I mean, he was way up there at one point early in the season. It was just kind of remarkable. Let's look at his totals. Bring up the totals for Jacoby Myers. So looking at the targets, he was not available enough. That was his problem. Caught 67 of 98, 804 yards. Had touchdowns this year. 6 of them. That was remarkable for him. But just the target shares, right, when he was healthy, 13, 8, 4, 2, 13, 6, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 3. So we're hoping with the Bill O'Brien offense he gets better, but he's also a free agent. So we'll see if he sticks around. Just interesting the percentage of winning rosters that he was on. Who knew? And I'm looking at the best ball version of this, by the way, right now. So there's that. I should clarify that. Some of the other players who maybe surprised you a little bit, Jared Goff, maybe not surprising. There was some that's Chris Olave, 21. Devontae Parker was on a lot of winning rosters. I think some of these are outliers. So what I was looking at was where was Jerick McKinnon, where were Cam Akers, guys like that. And they're not as high as I thought. Like, I think Jerick McKinnon, if you drafted him and played with him, was a league winner. But that's the thing. Who was playing with him? Who was sticking with him? I'm not sure. I was. Bob Harris. Because I love him. Look, and Cam Akers, it was like maybe a little narrow band, but let's close up. Let's look at the stats down the stretch a little bit and kind of figure out what we had going here at the running back position. Let's go from like week 14 through 18. All right, Cam Akers was running back 4. Jerick McKinnon was running back 2. Behind McCaffrey, Austin Eckler was up there. Derrick Henry was up there despite missing a game. James Conner had a strong finish despite missing a game. The average points per game for these guys, though. Christian McCaffrey, 21.6. McKinnon, 29. Austin Eckler, 18. Cam Akers, 16.8. And some of these guys didn't play. Like Elijah Mitchell had a high average, but he didn't play but one game, 18 points. So just interesting how this worked out, right, with some of these league winners not being on a lot of rosters. I mean, maybe people didn't have faith or didn't trust them. We were talking about him a lot on these pods. Grab McKinnon for the last 4 games. He was money, man. And we saw this last year, though, right? This is the thing about Jerick McKinnon. Andy Reid trusts him, right? And seems like when the games matter most, and we'll probably see a lot of him this weekend because he's a great pass blocker, and Patrick Mahomes costs like $500 million. They want to protect him a little bit. He's a little beat up. He looked good today, though. Did you see him walk up and down off the riser at the press conference? He looked like he was not even limping. Had no boot on. Looked great. Will Power, I've got 3 Browns on my dynasty team. Amon-Ra, AJ, and Hollywood. That'll work. Tough to find room for them to play when I also have Waddle, Watson, Jameson. Well, are you in the child division? Are you crushing your opposition? Grab McKinnon for the last 4. Nicely done. Yeah, I'm joking. I mean, you can assemble some pretty good teams in Dynasty. So when are y'all going to jump into the best ball rooms? By the way, check out that tool. It'll be up on the website. Very interesting to see some of these players, and we may talk about them again over the course of the offseason. Brandon Ayuk up there fairly high. Some guys that I liked. Just interesting to see who was actually bringing home the bacon, who was winning people the money. Patrick Mahomes was winning people money. Stephon Diggs, Austin Eckler, Travis Kelce, Tony Pollard. For sure, Tony Pollard. I got a great value, too, right? You got him at a good price when you're drafting. Justin Jefferson, no surprise. Jalen Hurts, no surprise. Justin Fields, no surprise. Jacoby Meyer, the biggest surprise in the top 10 for the top 3 league finishers in 39.7% of the top 3 finishers had Jacoby Myers. Josh Jacobs well up there. He was also good value. Daniel Jones, Jamal Williams, not a surprise there. Amari Cooper came on down the stretch. Trevor Lawrence, not a surprise. Rashad White, a little surprising. Christian McCaffrey down a little lower than I would expect at 16, maybe because not a lot of people were able to draft him because you weren't drafting early enough. A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 33% of those top 3% league winners had him. Tyreek Hill down a little lower than you'd think at 21. What are the Miami Dolphins going to do, everybody? What do you think? Will Power, his team is stacked. Yeah, McKinnon can block, man. That's the thing. Hurts, CMC, Walker, Stevenson, Javonte, A. Jones, Kittle. When you guys jump into the best ball room? How soon is too soon? Keep going on the drafts. I saw, what is it? Who was it that's opening up already? Is it Best Ball 10s? I need to get into them. Or was it Slater? Who was it? Someone sent me an email. I'll be getting in fairly soon. I'll probably wait till after the Super Bowl. And I'll probably do more than I did last year before the draft and see how that plays out. Anyway, interesting stuff. Again, I'm Bob Harris. In case you're just tuning in, you can find me at footballdiehards.com, the website. We have content ongoing year-round. We'll have news, notes, information throughout the course. Cover free agency, cover the draft, cover mini camps, training camps, back into the regular season. We'll have our August update, draft guide, flash update. We'll start working on the magazines, the Pro Forecast, the draft book. Pro Forecast, by the way, nominated for the FSWA Best Print Publication Award. It's like this will be our 31st year doing the Pro Forecast. The draft book, the cheat sheets, and the Football Diehards magazine. We'll be working on all those, trying to put together great content, kind of evergreen stuff for you to deal with and get into the strategy angles of things with some of our great writers. Gary Davenport, once again, nominated for one of his articles. So, Gary Davenport, can't beat that guy. Mr. Scamper is getting it after the Super Bowl. I think that's IDP and no kicker. I'm in, we have some leagues. The Football Diehards Dynasty League is like a 32-team, 216 division, 2 copies of every player, 50-man rosters. Dynasty, it's ridiculous. Also known as the Mike Dempsey Invitational. Dempsey's been destroying that. Puts out a lot of offers. I'm looking good in my fantasy dirt dynasty. Fabiano has a league. I'm looking pretty good there. For a bit, I'm sure. I think that's what I'll do. I want to get in early and mess around. I know we'll be doing the first serious drafts the day after the Super Bowl. Got an email. We'll be doing our first, that's kind of a traditional thing on Sirius is to do a draft right after the Super Bowl and kind of plant some flags. And I think that's always fun to get it going. And we'll kind of see where it goes from there. We'll be doing a lot of mock draft Mondays on the radio program, or at least mock drafts. I don't know if it'll be on Monday. Don't know the entire off-season schedule. We'll probably dial back to Saturdays only for a little bit on the show. I'll be coming here at least once a week throughout the off-season. I might miss weeks, but we'll try and get that in every week and include you in the fun. Love having you guys involved in drafts. Love interacting with all of you. Appreciate everyone coming all the time, and we'll make it interesting and keep you involved and try to keep it as interactive as possible, because that's the fun, man, getting you all involved. It's been really a pleasure doing it this regular season, and I'm not going to stop. Not going away. I've gone away for, 30 years? Not going away now. So, all right, so I'm going to call it a night here, and if you have any final questions, go ahead and throw them in. I will get the answers to you. We'll look for what's going on. I'll be back Saturday. This week I'll do noon. Am I going to do noon? No, I might stick with 11 a.m. because I got the radio show. I'll figure it out, but it'll be 11 or noon. Look at my Twitter feed. we'll get it dialed in. I got to figure out this schedule. But we'll be back and have a little more focused DFS content and, dive into some of the pricing and some of the picks pans, see where the injuries stand. I think everyone's going to be okay again. Patrick Mahomes worked fully today. Looks fine at his press conference. Thank you for coming, Andrea. I appreciate you every week. And so we'll see where I think he's going to be fine. I think the Chiefs think he's going to be fine too. And A.J. Brown off the injury report, or at least not on the injury report, despite some issues last week, apparently, with his hip. Thank you, Mr. Scampers. Appreciate you. And by the way, I'll see probably some of you. I'll be doing the Front Yard Fantasy thing tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So check that out. I can't remember what game I'm playing, but I'm playing a game with the boys. Love those guys. So check that out as well. And again, Football Diehards, the radio program, will be on Thursday, 10 p.m., Friday, 10 p.m., and we'll see you again on Saturday, 3 p.m., but I'll be here first before I'm there. That makes sense. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the games. Or no, I'll see you before the games. What the